I know there's a print behind me missing. It literally just fell down 40 seconds ago and I can't be arsed dealing with that now. Nevertheless, welcome back, beloved. Today I'll be rambling over some Halloween photographs I took over a month ago. Everything that I initially planned for this video kind of went to shit, and it's also kind of been the story of my first year on YouTube. No matter how much effort and time I spilled into a few of my endeavors this year, nothing really materialized, and it kind of made me reflect on my relationship with failure and failing to create, and why it kind of takes up a lot of space in my head and why it feels so heavy. After some self-inquisition, I'm coming to realize that I'm not failing at anything, I'm just finding things out, and I'm not incapable of anything, I'm just unfamiliar with what I'm doing. And this is the language and the narrative I'm trying to absorb and carry forward in my life. I think quite often I prematurely quit my search and suffocate my ideas in life before they even see the light of day, assuming it's reception based on the echoes of my own mental chatter. But it's impossible to know how you would feel about a thing that doesn't even exist. In wanting things to be a certain way, we really end our journey before it even begins. I'm beginning to try to place myself outside of failure or success. I don't know if outside is the right word, but contingent less on an idea. Living life without reference to outcome. Because if it doesn't live up to that ideal, it's nothing. And to define yourself by the things that you've accomplished is to also define yourself by the things that you have not. One can't be true without the other. In valuing possessing an outcome, we forget that we ourselves are also something within our possession to value. Ironically, we are the outcome of our values, and if it's never within us, then ourselves will never hold any value. In valuing outcome, we only experience ourselves in a positive way in relation to our productivity rather than our simple existence. I don't know if that made any sense, but it kind of did in my mind. Nevertheless, in our endeavors, even if the final sum of parts doesn't equate to what we're aiming for, you still have the knowledge, the skills you gained by creating the parts. Ultimately, the work you did will still hold value. The experience will roll into the next iteration. You'll create the next thing much quicker and smoother, and the next and the next, and ultimately that's what's always within you. A lot of time, life is beautiful beyond our expectations, but we limit it with the ideals we try to illustrate it by. We get emotionally tied to the results because we invest time and energy into work, and we feel we need the equal return for the time invested. But most time in life is wasted in relation to an equal output achieved. And really, the time is only wasted when you stop searching. You only fail when you start finding things out. When you find what works finally, that should give you exponential returns, and until that thing no longer works, I hope anyways. I think the goal is to constantly iterate through as many ideas and find what resonates, and then scale that up. Iterate through and fail quickly at as many ideas as soon as possible. Like, riddle me this, beloved. If you knew that for every 50 failed ideas, you were guaranteed to find a good one, would you not be trying to get through those failures as soon as possible? And really, the only bad idea is the one you don't do. And if you want to make good things, you need experience, and experience comes from making bad things. So if you make a bad thing, congratulations, you're now more experienced to make better things. So you're not really failing, you're searching, beloved. I'm shifting more of a mindset to actively failing fast and finding things out as soon as possible. You can't wait to know, you must go and find out. I think one of my greatest errors is my lack of trial and experimentation. I think a lot of people have an adversarial relationship with this. We want things to work out and be right immediately. I think for me in art, everyone seems so sure and confident in what they're doing. Everyone has a clear idea and direction, but everyone is only soliciting their wins and never broadcasting their trial and error. So just through consumption, I'm making myself feel like I'm not figuring out as quick as I should be. But I'm learning to remind myself that what I'm seeing is quite often a thin slice of the best parts of other people's experience, which is quite often curated to look that way. I'm viewing a microscopic part of their journey, and I often compare that with the heaviest parts of my journey to what the best curated parts of theirs is. We're comparing these arbitrary made-up markers in our minds with perceived achievements of what we see around us. But that's not a fair one-to-one comparison. You need to compare the whole journey to each other. I probably bet if you would see the horrors and trials in someone else's life, you wouldn't trade it for yours. And really, you can never really be behind on your own journey. You know, you are the only one watching you. You're watching yourself on your journey, feeling the hits and misses, and you're comparing that with the success you perceive around you. And I think the word failure and success has such a heavy or large space in our minds because our existence these days is really scrolling through the highs of others' lives while we're working a job we hate. But none of that is really real. You know, failure is just a narrative in our minds. It's attachments to ideas and memories, and we constantly rewrite that all the time in relation to the social stock markets in our phone. And if we can let others narrate our ideas of ourselves, then why not us? Why can we not rewrite those ideas for ourselves? We have this habit of using these references to define ourselves in the moment. Everything you consume does not have to be constantly related back to yourself. I think observation without judgment is truly one of the highest forms of intelligence. And until we give ourselves that independence, we'll constantly be in turmoil to our ego's comparison to everything around us. These guys are here, so I'm not doing enough of this. This dude has already done this at half my age, so I must be a fucker. But that doesn't mean anything. If anything, it just means they stumbled upon the findings they needed to get where they need to be earlier. And that's basically just luck. And that's not in anyone's control, not even theirs. What is in your control is just walking the path. If I were to define achievement for me now, it's probably to be present and to continue to show up in whatever I'm doing open-heartedly, even when it hurts, in spite of obstacles. I think one of my greatest failures is not realizing that failure is the route you must take, that failure is the path, it is the way, rather than something to avoid. The specific obstacles in your journey are there to provide you with the specific knowledge you require to get where you need to go. I think we look at others' route and take that as if their journey is a proven solution, but that in itself is a failure. That in itself is a form of self-neglect. Because although there may be general themes between you and others, the specific path for one another are completely unique to the individual, and one must be present in one's own journey in order to endeavor. When we indulge ourselves in others' journey, comparison and envy begin to bubble up, and that really reflects the lack of presence and progress in our own. I think the path only gets clear by walking it, and you'll realize that what you're searching for is already in your possession, and to walk the path is to achieve at all times. And that's not to say don't take ideas and help and advice from others. It's natural to copy others. I think it's the normal things to do when you're doing new things. It's a smart and great idea to take a template of what works and utilize that, but that'll only take us so far. We need presence in our own journey to recognize we now need to wander out into the abyss and make up our own maps. We need to find what's befitting for us. I guess if I could just talk a little bit more about myself, I guess my first iteration of videos were these attempt at cinematic photography vlogs, but I'm not the best at really talking directly to the camera in an impromptu, off-the-cuff manner. And I guess if I was to continue to force that, there would just be a lot of disingenuousness and friction that would definitely show up in the art. I guess I'm more of a reserved individual who likes to sit and think and wrestle with ideas that are more along the introspective, self-inquisitive path, I guess, and I'm trying to find a way to weave that into my photography. And I also understand that my photography and my videography are not really strong enough and to have a voice at this point in its journey, and that's fine. It will take a lifetime to build that, but what is unique is my individual journey to find that. So that's what I'm trying to lean into more. So yeah, thanks fucking Captain Obvious. None of this is life advice, it's just observations of my own experience. I've rambled enough. If you listen this far, I'm probably just talking to myself at this point. I appreciate it, beloved. I'm proud of you for failing and finding a lot of things out this year, gaining a lot of experience, a lot of shit on the way. Hope to see you again soon.